source. Because if you're copying from a source, believe me, man, I know this first-hand experience, you're going to copy some of the wrong answers too. Anyways, so let me move on to the second piece of evidence here. If you look in the Quran, it talks about a city named Iram inside chapter 89, verse 7. Now, there's something very unique about the city Iram, and in which is that nobody has ever heard of a city called Iram before. You could go and look through all of the pre-Arabic or Arabic literature. None of the companions of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam or Aristotle's work or the Hindu scriptures, nobody has ever heard of a city called Iram, yet this is a city mentioned in the Quran. And for this point, many people have actually ridiculed the Quran and made fun of it, because it's talking about cities which nobody has ever heard of. And even one of the most famous critics of the Quran, his name was Wellhausen. He stated that Iram was actually a fictional place. It didn't exist. This is just, whoever wrote the Quran, they just made up some corny city and they put it in the Quran. This is basically what many people thought, especially Wellhausen. All of this changed in 1978 because there was an archaeological dig and they discovered a city named Ebla. Now in the city Ebla, they looked in the library and there they discovered a city which Ebla used to do business with. And lo and behold, that city was named Iram, the very same exact city as mentioned in Surah 89 verse 7 of the Quran. And that was done in 1978. Now, how did the author of the Quran, how was he able to have knowledge of this city? This is a question I would like to raise. And even the person who wrote the article on from National Geographic in 1978, I believe it's a December edition, I'm not sure, but he even makes specific reference of this. He says, Iram, this is that strange or obscure city which is mentioned in the Quran. That is even mentioned in the National Geographic's article. So how did the author of the Quran knew that such a city existed? Well, again, we would look at the algorithm and we could see that it's any one of those 8 possibilities, perhaps. Some people have guessed or basically made a hypothesis that Iram is a city in southern Arabia. There's really no proof for that, but some people have basically kind of guessed at that. But anyway, let's go along with it. The point is that no one in the history and in 10,000 pages of hadith literature, as well as in all history, has ever heard of the city named Iram. And how is it mentioned in the Quran, this city? That's like me coming and saying that, let's say in Montana, there was an archaeological dig, and there we discovered a city named, I'll just make up some name, Bohemia. I'm just going to bring up some name here. And Bohemia is actually a city which is 5,000 years old. Now, if somebody in Florida was talking about a city called Bohemia, that would be something very profound. I don't think anyone would disagree with that. How is that person in Florida talking about a city named Bohemia? Would there be anyone who would come up tonight and say, oh, no, that means nothing, that means nothing. It's simply an American talking about a city in America. Well, of course, that would be foolish. So there's really no basis for that argument. Anyways, let me move on to proof number 3 here. And we're now going to move away from archaeology and we're going to talk about oceanography. Today, scientists tell us that there is actually a barrier between the bodies of water, and that this information has only been discovered recently using advanced equipment. Now, let me give you an example. There is actually a physical barrier between the Mediterranean Sea and the Atlantic Ocean. And this barrier, the two seas basically differ in, number one, temperature, salinity, and density. And between these two seas, there is actual physical barrier. And of course, this barrier between the seas, which we are talking about, is not visible to the naked eye. Let's see what the Quran has to say on this topic. In fact, chapter 55, verse 19, it says over there,